Good afternoon. So how many are a little bit familiar with what I teach or what I do or whatever? And how many are just here because I'm the next speaker? Okay. And how many are here because of some kind of morbid curiosity of whatever there might be a train wreck or something? Okay. So I want to start with, I need you all to stand up. So I need those two guys right over there to stand up. If you don't stand up, I'll have to ask you to leave. Interesting. Okay, sit down. The gentleman that's walking out, I'd like you to come back. But I want to demonstrate something, and that gentleman that's walking out is the prime example of somebody who understands who he is. The rest of you stood up, and the reason why, and I want you to think about what happened to you, because you all had a different experience with that, but the catalyst of what made you all stand up was because I'm standing on this stage and I have a microphone. Therefore, there was an illusion of authority. Now, some of you stood up just because I said so, and then others of you stood up because others stood up. Then the two gentlemen over there, I called them out. One of them stood up because now he's called out. The other guy, he refused, and I threatened him to be removed. Now, that wasn't real. He actually got up and left on his own accord. That's the difference between who understands who they are and who's just kind of following something. So I want you to be self-aware of what happened to you in that little demonstration. This is for you so you can understand who you are and possibly who you are not or who you think you are. So what I found was that everything is in commerce and everything is contract. Everything is by agreement. So there's 4 elements of a contract. This is all through my research. So this is a simple contract. Contracts can get very complex, but these are the essential elements that make a contract work. First thing, there has to be an offer. So they've disguised offers. So an offer is like normally, I want to sell you something, do you want to buy it? And going back to old Lex Mercatoria, in the merchant fairs, that's where international trade started. So an offer can be disguised as, we're going to put a smart meter on your house. And they send it by notice. So notices, you can do an offer by notice, but it is an offer. It's an offer to contract. 5G is an offer. Forced vaccinations is an offer. Voting is an offer. Believing that there is a thing called the government is an offer. Just like I told you to stand up. So part of what has to happen next is there has to be minds. So the meeting of the minds is where you negotiate all the terms of the contract. There has to be an actual agreement, like you have to have full disclosure. So you can't, say that you want to buy my car and I don't tell you that the transmission doesn't work. Otherwise, the contract is immediately invalid. So you have to have a meeting of the minds. So what they tell you is that your smart meter is going to give you or 5G is going to give you faster speed on your phone. And do you agree? Then there has to be an unconditional acceptance. So there has to be an agreement. Now, part of ancient commerce is there's a thing called tacit agreement. If you didn't say no, you've said yes. And I know it sounds really odd, but that's how it works. And so what's happened to most of us is we have tacitly agreed that there is a thing called the United States of America, Canada, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The world didn't come with countries. The countries are actually a fabrication. This is where you have to kind of go a little deeper. Who said there are countries? We have a bird called the Canada goose. It flies south in the winter and it flies back north in the summer. It does not check in at a border. It doesn't even know the border's there. But I'll tell you this, you try and take a goose, dead or alive, in your car across the border, you're going to have armed guards saying you can't do that. Why? Because they said stand up. Or they said sit down. So that's the acceptance. And then you have to have consideration or performance. So you have to have this background in order to understand what's happening. And you have to kind of superimpose this over what's really going on in the world. So what's happening is they are doing military agendas, but they're doing them commercially. You'll notice, even the last thing, it was about a company called Monsanto. It's a commercial entity. It's for profit. The 5G is being put up by things like Verizon and Sprint and et cetera, all commercial. Military in scope, commercial in fact. So you can't deal with them in a military way, you have to deal with them in a commercial way. And this is how they are operating, right here. They're offering and they're using tacit agreement in order to get in a contract to deploy military grade infrastructure. Same thing with the vaccines. So with that in mind, I want to show you something about how the structure works, and that it's about jurisdictions. And so you've heard a lot of talk, or you have ideas about how things are, but I want to show you that what you may think reality is may not be. Might have to go deeper. So on that statement, you will know the truth and it will set you free. In my opinion, the key word is you. Because what kind of truth could there possibly be that sets you free? Because I can give you truth about 5G, or I can give you truth about vaccinations, or I can give you truth about all kinds of things, but did they set you free? It's the truth. So there has to be some kind of deep, profound truth that would set us free. And it has to do with you. And that guy is really close. So I will show you the jurisdictions. There's you. Now you can be plural, or you can be singular. And the statement doesn't say which it is, like that you will be free, like you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. So you have to understand that. And when I demonstrated the stand-up thing, some of you were operating, as I said, because you saw other people doing it. And there is a group mind in this room, and it can't be undone. It just is that way. So those that understand that can put something into the group mind, and the group mind just does what without thinking about it. That's why I wanted you to think about, why did you stand up? What was the mechanism? Each one of you had a different one. So you is what we have to figure out. That's where the truth is. You know, there's a saying, if you don't vote, you can't complain. That's actually backwards. I don't vote, and I have the right to complain because I didn't vote. I didn't participate. I know this is going to be tough for some of you. So the common law actually comes from England and is the foundational law here. But here's something that most people don't know, particularly lawyers, is that the law merchant, an ancient commercial system, was fused into the common law in the 1700s. And then they just stopped talking about it. But the judges were told to take judicial notice of the law merchant. And most people don't even know that it exists, let alone that it's still in operation. When I found this out, then everything started to make sense. Now I know I was losing because I wasn't playing the proper game by the proper rules. And then once I did start, that's when my life started to change. I went from running to they were running from me. And they tried hard to get me back in the box. They even put me, they locked me up for 60 days without bail, pending a one-day hearing. It took them 60 days to get through a one-day hearing because I kept catching them on all their stuff and using commerce, and they just couldn't get around it. They couldn't get on top of it. Once you're up above in an above jurisdiction, the lower jurisdiction cannot get on top of it. This is a concept you have to understand no matter what you do. I'm not saying you have to do what we're doing, but you have to understand what's really going on here. This is how they are operating, and it's ancient. It goes back to the days of Hammurabi, where they have banking on clay tablets, etc. Like, people just don't know this. This has been going on longer than people know. They think it's fairly modern. It's not. This is very ancient, and there are certain rules and customs. And what I also found was that these rules and customs were very similar to biblical principles. I had a pretty good Bible knowledge, and everything I learned in commerce seemed to mirror something out of the Bible. So one of them was copying the other. And I don't know which is which, it doesn't really matter. The fact is, there are certain procedures and concepts that you have to operate in order for things to work in your favor. If you don't, you lose. That's it. You know, it's just that simple. With that said, one of the things, like I said, in a contract, you have to have full disclosure. You have to have a meeting of the minds. Now, this is the key to what's happening with 5G and all these dastardly things that they're doing, is they're not giving full disclosure. The fact that you are a US citizen, you did not get full disclosure. The fact that you took a driver's license, you were not given full disclosure. Therefore, the contract is null and void ab initio, which means right from the beginning. But you have to exercise that. Otherwise, you're tacitly going along with it, which means tacit agreement. And tacit agreement is a killer because you don't even know that you're doing it by your behavior. And part of the thing was performance at the end, either consideration, money paying, or performance ratifies a contract. So by your performance, you are in a contract. After that, we get into spiritual realms. And that's where the remedy starts to really change for you. You get into these realms, and there's nothing that anything below that can do. And what I found was the Bible itself is a contract, and it's you can see the evidence of it because they take oaths on it. So your president took an oath on the Bible, all the past presidents, the Queen. Therefore, it is a contract, and I behoove you to read the contract, because it will give you the remedy, and you can use it to your advantage, especially when they're in breach of contract. So just be honest with yourself. Self-analyze, like in the stand-up thing. Like, why am I doing this? Do I have to obey? Is there real authority there? What's the mechanism? So as these jurisdictions go out, they are actually infinite. So we're getting a little esoteric here. And then you have to start to ask yourself, who could be the judge of something that is infinite as far as jurisdictions? Now you're into the concept of God, however you understand God to be. But what I'll tell you, what the Bible says about God is He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Infinite. Infinity is like this. The beginning is the end. A toroid is this. So the outside of this is where God is, but He's also at the beginning. And where's the beginning of this? You. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you.